What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. It's the Remedy Podcast with your girl, Shelly Nicole. Oy vey. The weekend just drained me. I was good Saturday, and then Sunday, everything just like... Is Mercury in retrograde? Did it start today or something? I don't know. I feel like it was just a day. Yesterday was just a day, like for real. Like everything. And I said I wasn't going to address, like how you always say like you're not going to address something and you're trying to like be above and be greater than like your past, or be above and a greater than, people trying to like bring you down, and you've grown and you're just, you see things differently. And then sometimes it's just be that one thing that tries to set you back, to like push you into this person that you're trying not to be. Yeah, that was me. That was me yesterday. I had a really bad attitude. I was just over it. I was over everything, especially with work. For those of you who do know, I do work for the federal government, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot going on, but nonetheless, I'm going to keep pushing and keep going and just leave it in God's hands, because I can't be bothered. That's what I kept telling everybody yesterday. Like, leave it in God's hands, because there's nothing that we could do. We can only do what we're told, and we can only move the way that we are being asked to move. And if you don't like it, you can quit. If, it's giving you too much, anxiety or depression or whatever the case is, leave. Don't stay. Whatever the case may be. But life is lifing. And if you know anybody who's going through all of this nonsense, you need to check up on them and just hit them up, whether it's a text message, a FaceTime, a phone call, whatever. Just hit them up and just like, let them know like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're okay. Like, because everybody needs it right now. The way you can't even turn on the news without something being shown that at this point, this man's the damn president. Trump ain't the president. At this point, because him putting in this rule, this regulation, and that, and this, and that, and the third. So it's so much. But nonetheless, I did think about naming this episode about lifing right now, but I do want to touch on self-esteem and building your self-esteem and growing and growth, because just like I said in the beginning, like life was really lifing, and like how you got to like this point of maturity and this point of like knowing yourself and building your self-esteem. I know there's people that still are learning, and honestly, age has nothing to do with it. So if you ever hear someone say, oh, by a certain time you're supposed to be acting this certain way, or by a certain time you're supposed to have this type of mindset, please tell them to go kick rocks with an open toe shoe, because that's not the case at all. I feel like you grow and you change every year, and you mature and you become a better person every year. But we're going to get into it. So this episode is about self-esteem and boosting it and changing and growth. So this episode is not going to be too long. It's actually going to be pretty cute and quick, but it is basically just words of encouragement. And obviously, like I've always done since the beginning, putting my own life experiences and what I've learned and how I've actually become completely different. The me who, if I looked back at myself now at 33, if I were to go and look at myself at 27 and like have like a glimpse of how I acted back then, 27, 26, 25, I would have never known or would have thought like, look at me now. Like, I'm completely different. Like, this is not me. My attitude is completely changed. And granted, like I said, like, you have your moments, you have your times where you're just like, you're ready to just go back to your old ways. But you have to realize that sometimes things are not even though things may call for that, it's not okay for you to jump back into that old you. It's not okay for you to go back and be this person who you've worked so hard not to be anymore. So how did I get to this point? So I was never really a hothead. I was never really the type of person who was just like, angry or fighting. Like, I never got into like a physical altercation, sort of say. I was never really that type of person that like fought in school. I didn't do any of that. I just I had a smart mouth. I mean, I still have one, but I had a smart mouth that you would have thought should have gotten me like into some fights. But nonetheless, I didn't. I just knew that my words can hurt more than my hands could. And I was very quick to react whenever somebody said anything to me. Also feeling like I needed to react because my kindness was being taken for, for granted. Also not feeling like I was the best looking. And I know some people are going to sit here and turn their head or turn their nose up to that because they're like, girl, what? But it's true. Like, I always thought like I was so skinny. Like, I was really, really skinny growing up. Like, I didn't really gain weight until like I hit 27, 28. And that was because of the birth control that I was on, Depo-Provera, if anybody knows what Depo is. If you don't know, that basically is the shot version of birth control. You take it every 3 months. It does part of the I don't know why I have prerequisite on my mind. Not prerequisite. Part of the effects. Oh my God. Part of the effects of being on Depo is you gain weight. And everyone that I know who is on it or was on it, they have gained weight. So I was obviously one of them too. So I did gain weight here and there. But even then, as you get older, that just becomes a part of your DNA. Nonetheless, I hated the fact that I was so skinny. And I had like a really bad time like understanding that and accepting it for what it was. I never not thought that I wasn't pretty. I just felt like I was average because I didn't have a body. Because I was sort of like a very like skinny girl who did modeling here and there. I didn't like go professionally into it as much as I wanted to, but and I think it was just the fear that I think my parents just had the fear of the industry, and I also was hesitant of it too. I'm not gonna say it was always just them. I was very like I don't know, and this and that. I remember I tried out for Victoria's Secret, and they had like, when I tell you it was a bunch of girls, like they had it at Yankee Stadium, and we were just like at the the concession stand area. That's where they had us at. And when I tell you the line was wrapped around the stadium, I want to say twice. And I remember I did the walk. I had my heels on. I did the walk. And the lady said to me, "You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. But you're just not exotic enough." That broke me so bad. I was just like, what do you mean I'm not exotic enough? Like, huh? And this was, back then when Victoria's Secret, I mean, if you guys know the whole scandal with Victoria's Secret and the inclusivity and everything that they have now was not what they had back then. So it was just, that really irritated me. I don't know. I was just always like in my head about like how I looked. But again, not just with physical, but just also how I reacted to things. Now in my 30s, which is crazy because I was put to the test yesterday. I really was put to the test. And I just made like a little statement on Instagram. If you guys followed me on Instagram, you've seen what I said. And I was venting to my friends. Like I was really venting to all of them, really telling them like how I felt. And I was like, yesterday was just like a day. Like I was just so annoyed. I was so annoyed. And just the things that I kept hearing. And I was just like, what? Like, what are you even talking about right now? I'm very much still a person who's non-problematic. I don't like drama. I don't like hearing about, like, I can hear about it, but it's just like it doesn't feed me anything. Like if I overhear somebody saying it, it's just like, oh wow, like damn. But you never hear me talking about people. You never hear me, and this is like my maturity. Again, this is the maturity level of me getting to this place where I didn't do it too much when I was younger, but I did did it here and there, you know what I mean? But like I even now, like in my 30s, I don't really care to gossip about people because everybody's going through their own shit. Everybody has something going on, and you don't know what a lot of people are going through. You don't really know the true story about anything. You know, it's always a he say, she say, this one said that, that one said this, that whole shit. You never really know the true facts because it's always what I said, it's what this person said, and it's always the truth. Only the people in you know, in the situation know what actually happened or what was being taken place. But nonetheless, the way that I could have responded yesterday was not how I would have normally responded. And I had thought about it. I prayed on it. I thought about it. And every time like I was going to make a video or I was going to text something just told me, no, don't do it. And I'm like, all right, Holy Spirit, yes, you're working in me. You're telling me you grew. You've gotten to this point, Michelle. You're a grown woman. Not everything needs to be addressed. And I think that's the one thing that I will say as, you know, for us ladies, for us Black women especially, that we don't always have to respond to everything that we hear. Because it's already the narrative that we're angry. It's already the narrative that we're hot-headed, that we're ghetto, that we're this and that. And it's not all of us. But that's already a thing that's placed in other people's minds. And if you constantly play into it every single time something is said, you're just basically feeding into the narrative of this is how Black women are. And I feel like yesterday it was, even though I was venting to my friends and I was able to say what I had to say to them, I got it off my chest. I was able to calm down. I had my friends and my boo calm me down. And I was able to reflect and also go to church. I went to church. And just to calm down and just to like, you know what? It is what it is. Let people say what they want. I'm going to go about my business and go about my life the way I need to go about it. So that's one thing. Not responding to everything that you hear. The other thing that I definitely will say helps with boosting your self-esteem is enjoying the singleness and enjoying the quietness. I've spoken about it before. I was in a relationship 3 years ago, and that lasted almost 2 years or 2.5. No, 2 years? 2 years. I don't know. It lasted over a year. Shit, let's just say that. But technically, I've been single for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I think the first year I kind of just, you know, stayed to myself. I kind of just recuperated how I needed to. And after that, I started dating, you know, again. Nonetheless, having this time, even during the dating, still having me time, enjoying myself. And yes, I was, you know, talking to other people, like I said, but still enjoying my single season, still enjoying learning about me. And even not in just this period of me being single, when I broke up with my ex who I was with on and off for 5 years, I was single for quite some time. I want to say I was single for probably 3 years then too. 2 or 3 years I was single. I don't know. But I gave myself that time too. Like I was heavy in the gym. Even now, like y'all be so proud of me. I went back to the gym. My legs, as I speak, are on fire. My back, not so much. So maybe I need to, you know, lift a little bit more, lift a little bit heavier. But my legs, baby, I put my legs to work. When I tell you I go to the gym and I put my legs to work. So I really just enjoyed my singleness, and I gave myself the permission to just be by myself. That helps build your self-esteem, because you get to learn about you again, and you get to find things about yourself that you probably never realized, things that you may like, things that you may not, you don't like, what brings you peace. Like I've always said, being by the water brings me like just clean and clear sanity. It just gives me the that I need to just rebuild and regroup and get myself back on track of, as you know, what it is I need to do. So I do feel like helping yourself with your love for yourself, and this is not just a woman thing, this is a woman and a man thing. You need to enjoy your singleness and find out what it is that you like and work towards that. And the last thing I would definitely want to say is that everybody needs to stop comparing themselves to everybody else. I think that definitely helps with boosting your self-esteem and that boosting that courage that you need and the love for yourself. When you realize that you're not everybody else, when you realize that you cannot be everybody else, I think that definitely helps with your love for you. And knowing that you're on your own course. Let me tell you something. Again, transparent. I keep it real transparent. Y'all know this. It took me a long time, when I say a long time, to understand that, Michelle, you're in your own lane. You're in your own race. I've had like a whole idea, and I think I probably spoke about this before, where I had this whole plan about how my life would go. And some people will sit here and say, oh, well, you're the narrator for your own life, and what you choose to do will be the way and the path of what you're supposed to do. To some extent, yes, I do believe that what you choose to do will technically drive your path to how and where it's supposed to go. But I do believe that sometimes things are not meant to happen for a reason. And I had to understand that my life could have went several different ways had I had done certain things. Had I picked a different career, my life would probably be completely different now. Had I had not gone to school and just did something like real estate and started a business, or did dentistry like I had thought about doing in high school, my life would be completely different had I went down every one of those routes. But I chose this one for my own reason and for my own pleasure, I guess, in a way. And it didn't turn out bad. There were bumps, obviously, and I wouldn't say there wouldn't have been bumps if I chose to be a nurse, if I chose to be a dentist, if I chose to be an entrepreneur, if I had chose to be a real estate agent. I wouldn't say that there wouldn't have been bumps during that time either. But I do feel like during the course of all of our walks and all of our, routes during our own path, we have like this glass car, like kind of like a car that's surrounded in glass. And we tend to look at everybody else, and we tend to turn our heads and look back and look, forward, but lifting ourselves out of the seat to peek over to see what somebody else is doing. And that does a lot to you mentally when you don't focus on what it is you're doing with your life. And that can make you get into a very, very deep depression. It can make you feel like, why didn't I listen? Why didn't I just go for that? Even now, me and my coworkers were talking about this yesterday, how a lot of us were regretting making the choice of not going the route that we should have went and going this route that we did, and all of us, meeting at this time in our lives and being at this job, feeling like we picked the wrong thing because of how everything is going. And I quickly had to stop myself from doing that, and I had to quickly just change the gear and change the energy of that conversation, because we were meant to be here for a reason. This happened for a reason. We chose this route for a reason. You have to stop comparing what you see on social media to where you're at right now. If you want more, cool. You should want more for your life, and you should try to make a plan to get there. And I think all of us should do that. I mean, shit, I do it myself. I have a million plans in my mind about what it is that I want to do and how I'm going to execute it and where I can get this done and how I can get that done. A million plans. But I'm focusing on this podcast. I'm focusing on having the one-on-one remedy, which I will speak about shortly. And focusing on getting this platform, getting onto more platforms, focusing on, trying a new career path as well. Nonetheless, just going with what I'm feeling and going with what God is telling me to do. Because you're going to stress yourself out. You're going to get yourself sick, and you're going to make yourself depressed and angry if you keep looking at what everybody else is doing at their age and feeling like you're not doing enough. And I feel like millennials deal with that the most because we're like in between the social media and traditional job aspect, where we were told from our parents, oh, just get a traditional job, you'll be okay, you'll be fine. And parents having to understand, which I hope more parents start to understand that have millennial children, even Gen Z children, that the 9-to-5 traditional way of living is no longer a thing. It's no longer keeping the bills paid. You have to have 3 of these damn things in order for everything to go smoothly. But the entrepreneur side of content creating, of having a podcast, of having a YouTube channel, having your own business is really a thing that people are trying to navigate and get into and break the barrier of this 9-to-5 and clock in, clock out and come home and, be the family. That whole life that we once thought we were cool with is no longer a thing. So I do feel like you have to get out of your own head, and you also have to stop looking at people as envious and start looking at them as inspiration. And if you can't, then maybe you need to break away from social media, or maybe you need to break away from the people that you follow on Instagram and start over fresh with something else. Start off with motivating yourself in however that looks, because you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to regret a lot of things if you keep trying to compare yourself to where you should have been. So as I stated a little bit earlier, that I am now having Remedy one-on-one, and that's basically a conversation, just a chit chat. We can do it via FaceTime, phone call, not yet in person. I may start doing in person, but right now we're going to do FaceTime and phone calls. And I can be the mediator between 2 friends. I can be the mediator in your partnership. I can be the person that you just come and talk to that you need to have some advice. But let me let y'all know this right now. I'm going to be very real with y'all. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you cannot take that, I'm sorry. I love you, but I need you to understand that I'm going to be very raw and very real. And a lot of the things that I say and a lot of things that I speak on, because people do come to me for advice a lot, which my friend actually helped me with doing this. He was like, nah, bro, you need to go be like a guru or something, because everybody's coming to you with advice. You always got people asking you questions. I feel like this is part of my calling, and me renaming the podcast The Remedy is basically, again, bridging the gap and helping Black women and Black men get to the point where we can understand each other and not hate each other, and get to the point where our relationships become stronger and leads us to marriage or leads us to a long-term relationship. I get marriage is not for everybody, but at least just being in a long-term relationship, like that's your partner forever. You get what I'm saying? So you guys can now book a FaceTime or a phone call with me. It's under the book now. Let's chat. Let's have a conversation. Let's be real. And let's talk. Like, what's going on? But I love you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. It's supposed to be a good week, finally. I think it's like a little bit of spring weather coming in. Thank God. I'm over this cold weather crap. But let's not get too excited. It's still February. But nonetheless, I thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great night. Whatever happened into today, leave it into today. Do not bring that shit into tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.